Can you guys hear me now? Yeah, I think there was something that was going wrong with the audio. I had some problems when I was setting up beforehand. I don't know if you guys even heard the intro music. And I realized when I was well into talking that I wasn't being heard. And then I saw Evangelist PJ Sampson say that I wasn't able to be heard. Hi, Evangelist PJ Sampson, by the way. Hi, Juniper. Hi, Paul Sticks. I was just starting off the stream by talking about how Hollywood's revealing a lot of, these sexual assault scandals, and we're seeing this now trickle into politics. And it's interesting given that there was the whole Pizzagate debacle that happened November of last year. And so I almost wonder if this is connected because you have politicians like Roy Moore who are being accused of not only sexual assault but pedophilia as well. And we know that the whole Pizzagate scandal with James Alefantis and the pizza shop was really big news, especially they try to call it fake news, but it's interesting that it's all kind of coming full circle. Hi, Dominant Roland. All right, and I see that you guys are all saying you can hear me, so that's good. But if you guys have like any questions that you want to ask, feel free to. But I just find it really interesting, and it seems like every day more and more people are being outed as pedophiles. But it's also a part of that, not just pedophiles, but people that have sexually assaulted women or men, whether it's in the past or present. And it's almost in a sense going to desensitize people, and they can't go after everyone if there's so many people that are being outed. All they can really do is shame them, but after a while, like terrorist attacks or shootings, it's all going to kind of become, it's just going to desensitize the general population to it all. But there's definitely a reason that they're putting this all out there. And right now it has a lot of shock value. Hi, Colin Mack. I see that he just popped in the chat. Hi, Niels Otteson. But there's definitely a agenda at play there, and like I said, I think it all connects back to Pizzagate of last year. If anything, I think Pizzagate was predictive programming beforehand for a lot of people within the truther community. Of course, they are saying that's all fake, but they're able to say that all of these scandals with all of these people are real. I see Colin Max said, hope you've been well and doing good, sis. Yeah, I've been doing all right. It's been a lot of homework, and as the semester comes to a close, I have a lot of senior projects to finish up, so been trying to balance it. Has been really fun here, but hopefully with the break coming up, I'll have a little more time to do videos, but I have a lot of other projects, personal projects that I have to complete as well. Paul Sticks says, I think it's more of a distraction. The real creeps in power won't be touched. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the case as well, because those who really, really are at the top aren't going to get prosecuted. Plus, if there's so many of them being outed at once, they're not really going to go after everyone because there's just too many people to go after all at once. I see here too in the news, they say that Bush is facing 41 allegations. He grew up 16-year-old in 2003. And I'm sure we're going to see more and more of these headlines pop up about politicians. Also, I wanted to mention to you, I know last week we touched on it briefly, but I'm still in shock with the whole Sophia also getting her citizenship in Saudi Arabia, just because Saudi Arabia is a hard country to gain citizenship um, for, and it's interesting that they were the first to do so. But it makes me wonder just about the whole transhumanist agenda, how far along they really are with it, because it seems like they tell us that there's more time to go, and then there's suddenly just these leaps in introducing different robots. And I wonder when we're going to see more robots like Sophia on the streets. For all we know, we already could be walking by a lot of artificial intelligent robots, but maybe they're able to blend well with the rest of us. I mean, it kind of goes back into even like synthetic robotoids and the concept of human cloning and them creating lookalikes for celebrities, or even the twin program that some have mentioned, which I find that really interesting, that they would get twins and separate one and then keep the other. And one would be famous and the other one would be a regular person. And then if they ever needed to replace the other one, they'd switch them out. But then with like synthetic robotoids where they look very human, but they're not, that's interesting as well, because you could take a celebrity that looks like they've gained fame and fortune and just murder them without ever having a fake story about it, and then put that robotoid in their place. I see Nils Onison said pedophilia is a common practice in Satanism. It was added to mock people. No one will do jail time. All different rules for common people than for elites. That's very true. Yeah, they're definitely in a way mocking the general population with the outing of a lot of these pedophiles. I mean, again, there's way too many of them being exposed at once to really prosecute all of them. And it seems like they're more being shamed publicly than anything else. And again, it's a lot of shock value that goes into it. But regular people who are accused of pedophilia usually are the ones that do the jail time. But generally, you probably have more people getting convicted of pedophilia who say are like a 20-year-old with a 16-year-old girlfriend, and they go and they, of course, they have sex, and then he gets registered as a sex offender. So you have a lot of pedophiles by that way too, where there was like a 4 or 3 years or 2 year age gap, or even a 1 year, sometimes a 17 and an 18-year-old. You have those people registered as sex offenders and pedophiles, while real pedophiles are running amok or are in high positions and they don't pay for what they're doing at all. I see, hi Ben, and I see said, yeah, creative fields always draw in the crazies of society. Hopefully the victims get justice. Yeah, I hope so too. I'm really doubtful about it just because these people are in high positions, Ben, but it would be good if they actually did get justice. But yeah, the creative fields do tend to draw in a lot of crazy people as well, and just sick people, because you have a lot of young men and women, just boys and girls, people in general, that want to be famous for the kind of art that they produce. They love singing, they love dancing, they love acting or writing. And, you know, to work in Hollywood, people have to give a lot. And part of that is their soul, part of that's the casting couch. And, you know, they get used to being surrounded by, especially in the like entertainment industry, attractive young men and women, and they can easily take advantage of them. And you know, if they say no and they rape them, they feel they have the power to do so, and there's no consequence for what they're doing. And then there's the element of just defiling innocents, people, especially children who are in the industry as well. But like you, Ben, it would be good if they got their justice, but I'm just a little skeptical that that's going to happen, since a lot of these people are, you know, giant moguls. But it could happen. It also makes me wonder too, since they're outing a lot of people in Hollywood and then, in politics, if we're going to see more outings in, other like other facets of society, because I know about a month ago there was one of the former US Olympics girls that came out and accused her coach. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see more like people in sports or in business or fashion being accused as well. Because they're going to keep this trend going, but it's going to die down, unfortunately. Dominic Raw once said, "It's all going to become the new norm for society as we know it. But God waited 1400 years ago upon a time to do something just about man's sins. Thus, all the evil could go on for centuries more." It really could, Dominic Raw one. It really could, because sometimes that's the case, and then sometimes something's done about it immediately. Niels Otteson said the justice system is all owned by Freemasonry. That is the learning program for Satanists. And there are a lot of Freemasons within the justice system, and fortunately, a lot of people, even when they're young, they're raised in families or they go to universities or places that will align them with the right, secret societies and organizations connected to Freemasonry to keep that system going. And there is a lot of injustice in the justice system. So that's definitely a sad fact too, Nils. I mean, it would be good to see, justice done, but I'm kind of with Nils here and take a more cynical approach that a lot of that will probably have to come from the Most High more than from the justice system. And like Dominic Rollins said, it could go on and get worse for more times to come before things get better. But hopefully, even if this is serving to mock us, serves as an eye opener for those who maybe were skeptical of the idea that, going into Hollywood would be harmful, because there are people out there who thought all of this was just rumors or hearsay. And now that it's coming out, quote unquote, in the mainstream media that they deem credible, it will help deter them from, going after that type of lifestyle. It might not deter everybody, but hopefully it can help those who were more skeptical of it all as well. So I guess, in a sense, even if it's meant to mock us and it's meant to desensitize us and it's all one big puppet show, it could serve that purpose as well, because the stories of, rape and sexual assault of children and men and women, they're real, even if they're revealing them to us for a more sinister purpose. I see Colin Max of the Britain Roman Empire. You're talking about the connection of the United States to Britain still, and how the Roman Empire kind of never died, but it's pretty much America is the new Rome. I see Niels Otteson said the law system is being changed in all countries for years now. The new laws are not all put on in practice yet, but will be in the near future. And Juniper said, will there be a stage alien invasion? Are angels highly intelligent and benevolent humanoid aliens, and which we will become in the next life in heaven? Okay, so Hi, Watchman for you. I see he said the capital is all Roman architecture and most city halls. Okay, so I'll try to answer all three of you. So Niels is talking about the law system being changed in different countries and not all of the laws being put into practice yet. I can see that as far as, laws are constantly changing, even, looking into like maritime law and the Sedekv trust and how that's all used in the court system. It's its own rabbit hole to go down. As far as you've asked Juniper about there being a staged alien invasion, so that's been like a long running theory, is that they're going to stage a fake alien invasion, and there's, depending on where you stand on the spectrum of believing in extraterrestrials, as someone who believes that a grand deception that's spoken of in the New Testament, I think that a fake alien invasion can be a part of that. Now, there's a lot of things that are part of the grand deception or the great delusion. I don't think it's just one single event. I think it's all forms of false doctrine that can kind of fall in that umbrella of doctrines of demons. And we've seen a lot of these already in place. They're embedded within the institutions of society and the messages that we're getting through TV and propaganda. But as far as faking one, I mean, they could do that if they really wanted to. Angels, fallen angels, could come down and pretend to be, from beings from another planet and act as if they are the creators, kind of like to fit the story of the Anunnaki. Even though I will say with a lot of the ancient astronaut theorists, they've just pretty much taken what many cultures have deemed the stories of the Watchers, because really the Anunnaki really match the Watchers story, and they've changed it to say it's extraterrestrial. So I could see that happening. And I do think when it comes to angels, there are good angels and there's bad angels, but the difference between the good and bad angels is that the good ones are following the Most High and they're not looking for worship, and they'd only really serve as messengers or watchers to watch, but they wouldn't try to interfere otherwise, whereas the bad ones will also serve as messengers, but for the kingdom of darkness, and they're more likely to look for worship. And as far as us becoming angels in the next life, I don't believe we will become angels in the next life, just because it says we'll be like angels and that we can't marry, but it never said we become angels in the word. And watching for you, the capital is, when you said the capital is all Roman architecture, mostly city halls, all roads lead to Rome, I can agree with you there. A lot of, it's just crazy when you look at the United States and like the architecture in Washington, D.C., and just all over the country, really. It mirrors Rome, it mirrors Egypt, and other well-known ancient cities, even the names of the different buildings. And Dominant Rawlins said, I believe the reason why they're exposing pedophiles so rapidly is because they're testing the population morality to see if we're comfortable with it or not, because notice how none of them go to jail. Exactly. Yeah, it's like they can go around saying, like Harvey Weinstein, he's a, pedophile. Well, they didn't say he was a pedophile, but like Roy Moore, he's being accused of having sexually assaulted a girl when she was underage, and now, George Senior Bush, I believe, is being accused of molesting a 16-year-old or assaulting one, and Charlie Sheen, and there's many others, who have touched underage children, or Kevin Spacey, and you don't really see them being locked up. You don't see warrants out for their arrest. We don't even see a trial being developed yet. All we see is them telling us, look, these people are pedophiles, and after a while people will say, well, I'm a fan of this person, and even if they are accused of being a pedophile, maybe that's fake news. Because, see, the thing about even the words fake news, they've used it to try to discredit people, especially in the quote-unquote alternative media, but they also use it as a form of dismissing things you don't really want to believe. So if you start to say, well, my favorite celebrity is accused of pedophilia, it's much easier for me to just like still watch their movies and just get over it. That person needs to move on with their life and not complain about it. And like you said, it's a morality test. And they can just say, deny it as fake news, or it's just lies by the media. I see Watchman for you mentioned maritime law. And he said I was saying it while he was typing it. Niels Otteson said the Vatican, City of London, and Washington, D.C. are all states under their own laws and owned by separate entities. Yes, it's interesting when you look at like the District of Columbia, the Vatican, and London. They're all really interesting to research. Hi, Robert DeLand. Hi, God is the Alpha and Omega, children of God. Colin Mack said the CIA covered up for the Nazi war criminals back in 1945. Yes, they did. It's really insane when you think about like Operation Paperclip and how they managed to sneak a lot of them into the United States, and they infiltrated different sectors of the government, and a lot of things like the space race they were involved in and other factions within society. And they really did cover it up, but they kind of did talk a little bit about it in Captain America. I think it was Winter Soldier. They're always putting it out there in the media. Watchman for You said many pitfalls and snares, even more so with the web connecting good and bad folks. It goes through the Ethernet, or as we type on keyboards set up like Ouija board, and the mouse is like a planchette. Makes you go, yeah, that's very true. Yeah, when I found out about the whole connection of like how the internet is like the ether, you think about the setup of the mouse and the keyboard being like a Ouija board, and just how people look for answers within the internet. Like, how many times have you or I, or anyone's Googled a question and they've gotten an answer? So in many ways, people do treat the internet much like people would treat a Ouija board. It's really crazy. And then you get into the whole scrying, and it's just really wild to think about modern technology, and even how a lot of it was originally invented to communicate with spirits. Like the telephone was supposed to communicate with spirits, the TV was supposed to, but that didn't work. But now you got things like spirit boxes to do the trick. Okay, guys, I'm scrolling down the chat. Robert DeLand said they go after Christians but not devil worship. That's true. They really do. Dominic Rollins said they're also trying to push for Sharia law as well. It's interesting too, because on The Simpsons, didn't they have an episode where it was in Michigan where they were under Sharia law? God is the Alpha and the Omega. Children of God said, hi, love your channel. Could you sub me? Sure. If after this show you can put your channel link in the comment section, since a lot of the comments go away, and I don't know, the chat acts weird about links. I can subscribe to your channel. Watch for You asked, what do you think about the Las Vegas event? That whole Las Vegas event, the way it was treated, like as the biggest mass shooting in U.S. history to date, and then all the inconsistencies in the story, I really don't believe, of course, what the media is saying as far as it being a complete hoax. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I've seen a lot of videos where it seemed like, there was some crisis acting going on, but it didn't. I saw videos too where it sounded like there really were, like the gunshots were coming from the speakers. And then I heard some people saying there were fireworks being set off so they wouldn't know where the gunshots were coming from. And you didn't see really anyone fall down when there was shooting going on. Will I go as far as say no one died? But do I think it was a false flag? Yes. Why were there holes in different parts of the building? This guy had his guns in two separate shots and was firing at the same time. And he snuck all of these weapons in the Thursday before. I mean, there's just so much inconsistencies in it that really, goes with the whole gun control narrative. But even with the gun control and, quote unquote, politicizing tragedy, like it's been mentioned, the gun sales keep going up each time these events happen, and a lot more people are just freaked out over this kind of thing. So, in a way, as they kind of divide people with all of the division, and more gun sales go up, it can help prep people for a civil war. So there's just so many factors that go into it. I think sometimes it's kind of like social science is what they do with us with these false flags. Even if it's completely fake and nobody dies whatsoever, say like all of these 527 people injured and what was it, like 52 people dead? I don't know the exact stats on it, but let's say that no one died, no one got hurt. It's all just one big fake experiment, right? Even if it's a fake experiment, seeing how the masses react to it is its own form of studying us. So every time there's an event, whether it's fake or it's orchestrated and it's a false flag, they're measuring how we react to it, and they're tuning each event each time to see what they can get us to do, what kind of policies they can push us towards. So it's definitely interesting to see how they use these shootings. And now, there's the one in Texas that's kind of stolen the spotlight from the one in Vegas. Of course, it's not as large, but it's the largest mass shooting in Texas, and it's at a church. And they're using that again to measure where the masses are with gun control and trauma as well. Niels Ottesen said, "We will have a garment like angels, that is the body or form we will have called garment. Heaven has 7 different layers over each other. In every heaven, the angels look and form different." High Understanding Conspiracy. And he asked, "What do you think of the alternative media that has taken position as the new truth movement for the masses? It's like a political truth movement, yet I find they mock conspiracy truthers regularly." That is its own interesting can of worms, but I'm glad you asked it, Understanding Conspiracy, because it seemed like the elections really helped redefine what the quote-unquote truth movement was. And you had Hillary Clinton come out and utter the words alt-right, and that kind of got conflated with all conspiracy theories because she called out Alex Jones. And Alex Jones, of course, he said Hillary and Obama smell like demons, and Obama answered him back. So in a way, it helped give credence to this idea that anyone linked to Alex Jones, which is considered a truther or a conspiracy theorist, was somehow linked to this new group called the alt-right. And then from that were all these new people that kind of popped out of nowhere. Some of them were like Pizzagate investigators, and they began, doing stories that did kind of border on, truth movement type of topics. But like you said, they like to mock, quote unquote, conspiracy theorists. They're more rational. Many of them are atheists, but yet they are culturally more Christian, and they believe in things like race realism and, ethno-nationalism. So it's very interesting to see these people kind of take over this quote-unquote alternative media and become like the new form of the truth movement. And I think they're definitely, many of them are, government plants. A lot of them, for one thing, are, fairly attractive, very well spoken. And I think if you want to infiltrate a movement, you need, people that are going to draw people in aesthetically and, be very well versed in the right talking points. And many of them share the same talking points. So I definitely think that they've come in by design and kind of taken over the truth movement. Sadly, a lot of people have been kind of swept away down that current with them. Sorry guys that I'm not keeping up with the chat all the way, but I'm scrolling back down. Hi Pilgrim's Progress. I see says Jim Duke Perspective did a good Spreaker radio show on it. It's uploaded on YouTube, titled Texas Shooting EMP Threat, Las Vegas. Thank you for sharing that. I'll have to look it up after the show. Hi up north of the 49th. Hi Christopher Alexander. Niels Ottesen said, "Look at Russia. They are still communist but are ultra-nationalistic. No difference in reality. Just playing with words. Democrats and Republicans are just the same. A scam to divide and rule." Yeah, that's really true. It's two sides of the same coin, two wings of the same bird. It just amazes me how some people get so caught up in, deeming themselves Republican or Democrat or leftist or, conservative or liberal. It blows my mind because some people will treat it like it's a sports team. And I think, sports in a way is another form of predictive programming because it teaches children, because many people get into it as kids from a young age, that you need to compete against people, you need to be loyal to a team, you can't forsake your team, you need to make bets on them. And people treat their politics like that. And like you said, whether you're talking nationalism or communism, whether you're talking, capitalism or socialism, it's always this dichotomy, this either or, the Hegelian dialectic that keeps the system in place, that creates the synthesis. So really, it's all a distraction, but people do feel like they're a part of something. They feel a part of a group when they pick a side, and they feel so passionate that they go after the other side, and they're blinded by not seeing that while they're busy fighting fellow citizens, that those at the top are still in power. Just they've presented a new ideology to the masses. Watchman for You says, yes, Gov shills have taken over YouTube. That's very true. Pilgrim's Progress said there was an Alex Jones voice-like character feature on the show Wisdom of the Crowd. He's too easy to make fun of and be a bullseye. Yes, he really is. I mean, Alex Jones is like the perfect character of what you would think a conspiracy nut would be. He shouts, he's very passionate, the perfect tinfoil hat wearer, and now, he sells all of the stuff like Brain Force, which, I mean, he markets the weirdest products to his audience. And even like the pictures he showed of himself after using some of his health products where he had no shirt on. I'm sorry, but it looked like he photoshopped his head on some muscular guy's body. But he's the perfect cartoon character. And if I'm a skeptic and I see someone like Alex Jones, I'm just gonna laugh and think this guy's the perfect representation of a conspiracy nut. But I agree. It's interesting that he went from being pretty apolitical to suddenly, a spokesperson for the Republican Party through promoting Trump. Christopher Alexander said, I return your message. Thank you for reaching out. Hey, you're doing a great job. Thanks. And I'll have to check my messages. Did you do it through email or general messaging? Watchman for You said Bill Cooper called out Alex many years ago as a fraud. Dominic Rawlins said, and I also heard that they have been placing baby fetuses inside our sodas, and also human DNA has been found in hot dogs. That's in stores as well. Wow. I didn't hear about the hot dog part, but I'm not surprised because hot dogs are highly processed meat. So it's easy to put anything they want into it. I've heard just strange stories when it comes to like what they're putting baby fetuses in, like Frito-Lay's chips. And I even heard, I think it was Simona Rich. She was talking about them putting baby fetuses in a lot of cosmetic products that people use on their like hair and skin, which is just disgusting. But I wouldn't be surprised because, the people that own these companies, many of them are occultists and they believe in a lot of weird doctrine. So to them, by, adding certain properties to our food, to our cosmetics, it's a form of controlling us from behind the scenes. And we're involved in something we don't even realize, a form of cannibalism that we're not even trying to take part in, which is just disgusting. Okay, Christopher Alexander, so you said Gmail. I'll have to check it when I have a minute. God is the Alpha and Omega. Children of God said Alex Jones works for them. Photos of him partying with Charlie Sheen. I do remember like him having Charlie Sheen on his show as well, and it's slipping my mind right now. But there's a certain company. I'm sure one of you guys will remember the name of it, that started when he started up his radio show in Austin, Texas, I believe, that monitors the internet or does something with the internet. Many say he's really tied to them, which wouldn't be a surprise as well. But it's interesting he was partying with Charlie Sheen, and we see what Charlie Sheen's been accused of with pedophilia. Niels Otteson said Alex Jones is there to discredit the Truler movement at the same time to hide the real powers behind the curtain. Yeah, I agree there. He really is there to discredit them. I mean, when he went on Piers Morgan, he overacted, he overreacted, but he definitely overacted as well because, I mean, his reaction was just so outrageous and was meant to make anybody who remotely believes what he believes or claims to believe it look like a lunatic. I see that, sorry guys, I just scrolled too fast. God is the Alpha and Omega. Children of God said, yes, Pepsi uses aborted babies. Yeah, that's why I had stopped drinking Pepsi altogether. Christopher Alexander said, yeah, they make money off of fear-mongering. It's basically war profiting. Yeah, it is. It's just terrible that they use doom and gloom to make money. Pilgrim's Progress said why we should grow our own food or buy local from farmers markets. That really is a safe alternative. Ben said, but Dazz, what about frogs? Alex has to be right, lol. Did Alex do something with frogs? If he did, I'm unaware of this. And Watchmen for You said they stole the studio equipment to start InfoWars and the Silver Guide. That is the platform of the InfoWar match. Bill Cooper exposed this on his radio show. I actually have to go look that up because that's probably one of the few interviews I haven't seen. Pilgrim's Progress said, yeah, the addiction to Coke is hard to break. Coca-Cola. They actually have coca extract in it. Interesting. Christopher Alexander said, like Pete Santill and Jones, I feel like they would make gaslight vids against me and Mark Dice. And Pilgrim's Progress said, Coca-Cola is the largest import of cocaine in the U.S. I wasn't aware of that. Up north of the 49th said, dazzling one, they're sure coming out here in Canada regarding geoengineering now. I think Pizzagate and all these things, they want to come out. Where is the outrage? Can you tell me a little more up north of the 49th about the whole geoengineering that they're coming out with in Canada? And yeah, it's interesting that they definitely want things that are like in relation to Pizzagate to come out. Because I remember in November of last year, even whenever that was breaking and they were trying to discredit it, and they had that guy show up at Comet Ping Pong Pizza, and they said there wasn't even a basement in the building, and supposedly he was led to try to shoot up the place because of fake news. And now we see politicians outside of that circle being exposed as pedophiles pretty much. So there definitely is some credence, I would say, if you believe in the Pizzagate scandal, because if there's politicians like George Bush and Roy Moore involved in pedophile scandals, why wouldn't other figures linked to like James Alefantes be involved with that? And just like the name, like the codes that they had, it was just sick. Christopher Alexander said Cinemex. Colin Mack said it all drinks and foods from Monsanto, GMOs. Yeah, Monsanto, I mean, what they do is just so disgusting too, because a lot of regular farmers are forced to go buy Monsanto seeds because their seeds will, like their Roundup, will end up in their farmland and kill their crops. And then Monsanto's like, oh, well, if you want to fix the problem, just buy some of our seeds, which are genetically modified. So it's insane how companies like Monsanto have like taken over our produce, and people are eating fake vegetables, fake fruit pretty much, that's meant to kill them and poison them. Watchman for You said we all have had 2 TV stars and WWF star as the president of the USA. That speaks volumes. Yes, I mean, there's a fine line, Watchman, for you between entertainers and politicians, and that should never be in reality. But I mean, when we saw the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where you had celebrities mixing and mingling with presidents all of these times, this tradition, that should have been one red flag. But yeah, you're right. And one thing that I found interesting was whenever I did that whole 23 video about like how some people within the occult worship the number 23. Trump appeared on WrestleMania 23, and then he became the president of the United States, the 46th president, or 45th. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not thinking this through straight right now, but it's very interesting, though. Niels Addison said McDonald's uses human meat in their burgers. The same is with all the chains who use patented meat products. The cannibalistic human ceremonies sells the meat to the chains after use. Ugh. That's really a dark thought to think about, eating human meat and it being sacrificed. I mean, these people are pretty sick that are in power, and they're psychopathic, so they would have no problem doing such a thing to people. Christopher Alexander said, I've been learning about plants and natural medicines. Plantain, dandelion, and I'm scrolling too fast here. Euthanasia. Hi, Sister Joy. And she said cosmetics are black magic. It allows Satan's transgender Baphomets look like women and real women to look like trans. Yeah, I mean, the way, like, if you look at makeup from like the 80s, 90s, even early thousands, the way women applied it, you didn't even have a lot of women wearing foundation. Now, most women, they go out not only with foundation, but they're contouring their nose, their lips, their eyes. It's like a new face that they're painting on, and it just blows my mind when I see before and after pictures, because this is the kind of stuff that celebrities did, and now you have everyday women who are taking like extra time to make a new face on their face, and then some of them forget how they honestly look. And I've seen some videos by women who were told to give up makeup, and they talk about how they really did just forget what they look like without it, or they felt dependent on it as if they weren't beautiful without it. So it is sad how Satan can use makeup to deceive people, because some men, they only chase women that wear makeup, and some women only feel beautiful with makeup. And you're right that there are a lot of regular women with the kind of makeup that they're putting on. It does make them look trans or like a drag queen, and it makes some men look like, it makes men look like women, and men are programmed to look for these women with these heavily contoured kind of drag queen faces over regular women, and it's just insane. I see Colin Mack said toxic chemicals to kill the immune system and dumb humans down. Christopher Alexander said, like, they hate on every truther that ain't in their club. Are you referring to, I'm not sure what you're referring to there. You're talking about some of the larger truthers, like, because some of the larger ones are quick to that's why I really don't like some clique behavior that goes on in the truth community. You have people who, they have their cliques, and if you're not in their clique, you're fake, you're false. And there's some people that they literally, their whole YouTube channel is devoted to exposing fake truthers and exposing false prophets, and that's all they do all day, is look for somebody new to call false and fake, and cut excerpts out of their video, and maybe they're taking it out of context as well. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of infighting that goes on in the quote truth community, and just accusations always being levied against each other. And Ben said, he said they are turning the frogs gay, lol. What? I'm not aware Alex Jones said that. I haven't watched him for a long time, and I mean, he has some pretty outrageous clips that I've seen. I don't always see them in their full context, but that's interesting. Watchman for You said Mexican Coke is made with real sugar, but USA Coke is made with GMO corn syrup. Interesting. It's probably why it might. Now I want to try Mexican Coca-Cola and see. And I see Pilgrim's Progress said, sorry, coca leaves, not cocaine. Up north of the 49th said University of Calgary was featured in documentary What in the World They Spraying, saying not sure if bad for people. Wow. I mean, it's interesting because you're having more of these documentaries come out that are, exposing what they're really doing. And I'm seeing even like, for instance, in my classes, they're showing us some of these documentaries, which are just reaffirming what we've been saying, like within the truth community. And like you said, up north of the 49th, there should be more outrage about it. But in a sense, people are just so into their lives or so into surviving that they don't really think about how terrible it is, or they think it's terrible for that moment when they see the documentary and then they forget about it. And it is an outrage that the air is being sprayed, people's food is being poisoned. Christopher Alexander said, I feel like L.A. Marzulli, Steve Quayle, Paul McGuire are a gatekeeper, author of Mafia. Yeah, I mean, when I started looking into like the Nephilim, stuff to do with Genesis 6:4, it was really fascinating for me because before, I had taken a very traditional stance and I came across a lot of their work and I was really intrigued by it and I bought a lot of their books. I bought a lot of their tapes. I didn't watch all of them and I didn't even get through all of them, but I watched a lot of their radio interviews like on Hagman and Hagman Report and, you know, all of the various other radio stations that they appear on. And at first, I really found a lot of common ground with them, but something I started to notice about many of them, and this is something that, this is why I think there's a healthy amount of like skepticism we need to have when it comes to looking at anybody or anything, including myself and anything I put out, because I could be wrong. I could be misled, and that's why we shouldn't take anybody, word 100% for anything. But I felt like after a while, just like you have like TBN and Daystar, and you have all these televangelists who are always trying to sell books and tapes and, get you to come to their conferences. These same people were kind of using a similar tactic, except they had this slant of conspiracy and sacred knowledge that you had never heard before. And there was a lot of kind of, a lot of them did use a lot of like vulgar language and stuff. And so after a while, I did, like you, Christopher Alexander, start to feel like they were kind of gatekeeping and they were acting kind of hostile to anyone new that was presenting information or outside of their circle. But there was an element of kind of like a knockoff of what you see going on with a lot of these um, people that managed to make it on the Christian television network. But they were just like the Christian alternative version of like Daystar and TBN, but with a conspiracy angle. It was just weird to me, but I did eventually kind of get turned off by them and just start looking into things myself and looking at other people outside of that bubble. Up north of the 49th said now mainstream media is coming out like this. It's just about to happen, the global dimming project. Interesting. What exactly is the global dimming project? I honestly do not know anything about the global dimming project at all. Hi, Stewie May. Pilgrim's Progress said just Google search Coca-Cola imports cocaine. Watchman for You said they allowed that to leak. It is real, but the place at Ping Pong Pizza is nothing in the big scheme of normalization of pedophilia. Yeah, they really are normalizing pedophilia because, it's after a while people are going to start to think, like I was saying earlier, I like Kevin Spacey. Yeah, he touched a 14-year-old, but I'd rather watch his movies than cry about it. Just the other day, I managed to watch the movie Lolita, and what really blew my mind about that movie was it was made in 1997, and Stanley Kubrick made a version, I believe, in 1962. The book Lolita was published in 1955, and what blew my mind about it is you had a book that was written from the lens of a pedophile in first person, talking about his desire for a 14-year-old girl. And I read like a little bit of it, the beginning of it, and it was well written in terms of poetry, but it's so sick that he's fixated on this little girl. And, he's calling her a nymphette and sexualizing this child, taking advantage of her. And, he destroys this girl's life. Her mother, dies, and he's her stepfather who's pretty much raping her, even though in his mind he loves her supposedly. And, one thing about writing is any writer who's going to write a book is going to humanize their protagonist, regardless if their protagonist is evil. But to think that this was published in 1955 and this was a best-selling book, and if you look at any English reading book list, you're going to see Lolita up there. But we see elements of Lolita in other films and movies and books, and it's just this idea of pedophilia that's always been with us. And some people will argue, well, young girls used to marry older men in the past. And one thing even to look at that is that might have been the case, but people didn't live as long. Most humans didn't live to the age of 40 because of poor health. So teenagers had to procreate at a younger age. But now that people are living to 70 or 80 years old, there's no reason for some child to be marrying or sleeping with an older man. And we really see this sexualization of children, and this idea that a child isn't that innocent and that they can, even be a temptress or, tempt the older person. Even these stories about these teachers sleeping with these young boys. And even I remember when Milo Yiannopoulos, he had that whole ordeal where he was talking about his priest and how he had molested him pretty much, but he enjoyed it. And he was talking about how a lot of these young boys, they enjoy, being with these older men, or some of them enjoy being with these teachers, but still they're the adult in the situation. They shouldn't be taking advantage of a child. And, they're going to try to push the age younger and younger and younger, but there's definitely that normalization that's been going on for a very long time in society. Donald Rawlins said, yes, it's a safe alternative, but they make growing your own food really expensive on purpose just so we can keep cannibals under the satanic morality umbrella. Yeah, I mean, cannibalism isn't against the law. It should be against the law, but it's not. Now, the catch here is that most times cannibals will go to jail because they'll have to kill someone to get their body. But if we happen to find out someone is putting body parts in our food, and we say that should be illegal, well, cannibalism isn't against the law. It protects anybody who's cannibalizing someone. And if someone just happens to die, they need to eat for survival, apparently, I guess that's not against the law either. I know there were stories that there was a deep website that actually allowed people to trade themselves to cannibals. In return, they'd get paid a large sum of money to provide for their family. But yeah, they definitely make it hard for us to grow our own food. And like I said, Monsanto just happens to have their Roundup end up in farmers' yards, so their stuff can get poisoned. They have to buy their seeds. Nils Ottison said Pizzagate is about human sacrifice. Sorry, I just scrolled away from you, Nils Ottison. I have to go back. Is about human sacrifice too. These victims was used in pizzas after the deeds was done. They still operate with these businesses. That's really disgusting to think about. But when you learn about Satanism, I'm not shocked that they're putting their bodies in the pizza as well. Up north, the 49th said, you can't grow cucumbers anymore, onions, many things failed in my garden this year, not due to anything done wrong or lack of water, it's the aluminum. Yes, that's the other thing too, all of the different properties in the ground as well, that also just what they're putting in the earth to stop the growth. Pilgrim's Progress said, I sometimes wonder if they actually put human flesh in the meat and if they're just saying that to scare us. I thought about that too, and something that scared me was a documentary I watched, and they had meat glue, where they were gluing pork and beef together so you wouldn't know, and they were disguising it as looking like fat between the meat. That really scared me because they could glue human flesh to regular meat as well. But yeah, that is something that freaks me out too. And I understand like vegans and vegetarianism, and I understand the ethics and morals behind it. And I do think that people in the West do eat more meat than, other parts of the world. But I also think there is kind of an agenda to get many of us to go vegan or vegetarian so we can, they're saying because of like the fact that, for instance, they're tearing down rainforests so they can put more cows out there so they can feed Americans more steaks and burgers and stuff. But if they can get more of us to stop eating like meat, maybe that'll leave more food for them, and for maybe if they, bring out these transhuman beings or Nephilim, it'll be more meat for them to eat as well. Colin Mack said in 1933 the Roman Empire took all of the gold and silver and gave humanity paper note IOUs. God is the Alpha and Omega. Children of God said yes, they spray aluminum on U.S. and in soil everything on us and soil everything. Christopher Alexander said plantain is a natural neosporin, and euthanasia is a flower immune booster. Watchman for You said they say there is human DNA found in Mickey D's meat. They allow so much from cuts in this meat factory, but I know they use aborted babies, i.e. Seminex. Yeah, I mean it's disgusting when you think about them putting aborted fetuses into the meat, into our fast food burgers. I mean, honestly, this is where I think why people in many ways want to like not believe in conspiracy theories. They want to become skeptics because it hurts less. Ignorance is bliss than to imagine all the fast food chains and grocery stores adding human meat to like their favorite fast food chains or even to the regular grocery aisles. Pilgrim's Progress said, I've been trying to see hips on some women on TV and it seems like most of them don't. Yeah, the hips of many women on television, they're so narrow. I mean, I'll be honest with you guys, and this is something I've mentioned time and time again, but, when I was a teenager, like a lot of young girls, when I was, that age, I wanted to, of course, be thinner, typical, size 0, 1, 2-ish, kind of small, and I was already, wearing smaller sizes, but I would look at their hips and say, how are they so, like, straight up and down? How do they not have like any hips whatsoever? It's like I got down, I think, to size 2 even, and I still had hips. I was still curvy. And I know some people, it's genetics, they are more, straight up and down, but even like girls I went to school with that were like as skinny as these women on TV, I never saw anyone who was completely like straight up and down like a lot of these celebrities. But it seems like they all have that same body type. And some might say, well, they're all doing cocaine, that's keeping them thin, but still you're going to have your hips even if you're super thin. So it is interesting, like you've mentioned, that many of them don't really have much for hips. Ben said maybe Triple H will run for president. Would be quite the laugh. I could see that, Ben. I mean, if Trump can win, Triple H probably could, especially if he ran with a good campaign slogan. I mean, we may as well just start having celebrity WWE presence. I know The Rock was supposed to run in 2020, I believe, probably in the Democratic Party. So they kind of been playing that up a lot. And The Rock even was caught with that pedophile. No, that was it, the child molester robot on that skit that night. So he probably has a good chance of getting the Democratic ticket. They're going to need a celebrity to run against Trump. Stewie May said Monsanto are involved in geoengineering, chemtrails, etc. They have aluminum-resistant seeds. Coincidence not. Dominic Rollins said, and I heard Canada legalize its bestiality, and it has been active for at least a year now. I remember that briefly, and that really blew my mind that they were allowing bestiality. I mean, that's just disgusting. Who would want to sleep with an animal? But unfortunately, there are people out there like that. Nils Otteson asked, how many have been getting a bad stomach after eating a chain-made burger? I've actually experienced that now that you're mentioning it. Just like a terrible stomach ache. A lot of like fast food just gives me a terrible stomach ache or makes me feel really sick inside. Christopher Alexander said, Dandelions kills cancer, helps blood, kidneys, bladder, and liver. Make tea out of it. Thank you for all the tips that you're sharing in the chat. Pilgrim's Progress said the man God sends you will love you without makeup. That's very true. And I think that's so important for a lot of women to know in general, especially women who are unmarried or single or waiting for their husband to come, is that whoever God sends them will love them without makeup. Because if they don't, I mean, they're not the one God has for them. But very good message. Watchman for You said some makeup has aborted babies in it. Clinique is one company that does. Yeah, I've heard people talk about that, and that's just that's so gross to think about. I don't really use makeup ever. The last time I put on makeup, I experimented with it like last year for fun, but I didn't wear it outside. I think the last time I wore it outside was like prom, which was for me 5 years ago. But it makes me glad that I don't really wear it too often, because if they're putting aborted baby fetuses in it, it would be gross to think that I would be putting that on my skin. But I heard at one point from Ripley's Believe It or Not that they were putting bat poop in makeup, and it could be made from like bugs and other weird things. I mean, even, look back at the Watchers introducing it, they say it was made out of metals. But it's just crazy, like how they can make makeup out of sick things. And maybe that's the sick stuff that these women are putting on their face. Maybe it's influencing some of them's behavior. Who knows? Sorry, guys, trying to catch up with the chat. I think I'm almost there. Pilgrim's Progress asks, who have you developed rapport with online, Dazz? Christian truthers, researchers? Have you made any truther friends in real life? When it comes to like developing rapport online, it's just so difficult, because I mean, I've reached out to some people, some have reached out to me, we've chatted for like, time period, and then we've kind of gone our separate ways. I think in the truth community, it's just difficult. There's a lot of skepticism that everyone has toward one another. Some people might start to feel as if someone may be linked up or working with someone else. So I can say there are people that I interact with on a very like basic level, as far as maybe saying hi to every now and then. But as far as like having any of them as personal friends in real life, I would say not so much. But there are definitely channels I admire and look up to, but I may not have that type of relationship with, whether they're researchers or, Christian truthers. Christopher Alexander said plant horsetail detoxes lead. Bone broth detoxes lead. Pilgrim's Progress said, I believe that if you pray and intercede, God will send his angels to protect you and create a hedge of protection around you. I prayed for chemtrails to stop over me, and I haven't seen as many. I'm really glad to hear that, Pilgrim's Progress. I think more of us should take that approach. Christopher Alexander said, they just got this holier than thou, we are better than you attitude. Yeah, I know what you mean. There are people out there that do have that. I think some of it is a defense mechanism somehow, and some people just get prideful when they're feeling as if they're further along in their walk with Christ, or they feel like they have knowledge. Some people get very arrogant about knowledge. I mean, I knew people that bragged about, being a cerebral narcissist, which is really sad, but some people, they get really hung up on knowing more than other people. And that's kind of like a big red flag to me, at least, is if I'm talking to someone and they can't stop talking about how much smarter they are than everyone else, and how, it's like they're superior to everyone else. Because even people that don't necessarily know the things I know, I still enjoy talking to them and being in their company, even if I can't always share what I want to share with them. Because sometimes over time, as you develop that relationship with them, you may be able to introduce new concepts to them. But I don't really judge people based on how much they know or don't know, as much as, how they are as a person. And it's kind of sad that some people get to that point, but some feel that way. And they do kind of act like if they talk to you and they don't feel you're holy enough or knowledgeable enough, you're not worth speaking to. Stewie May said, I wish I had some real life truther friends. That's my goal. Me too. Christopher Alexander said, I learned about Nephilim from quails, so I don't hate them. Guys, they just irritate me because they're respecters of persons. Yes, yeah, I know what you mean, exactly. Richard Stidham said, well, I'm late to the party. Hi, Dazz. Hi, Richard Stidham. Christopher Alexander said, it says they will weep and howl in the day of trouble for their gold and silver. That really stands out to me because, like, a lot of people like Steve Quayle and many of these, like, bigger, well-known Christian truthers, I don't know where they'd fall on the spectrum, they do like to sell you gold and silver and act like if you don't have gold and silver, you're in trouble. And, they make a lot of money off of selling you survival products. There's nothing wrong with, I believe, selling things, but it does seem that after a while, selling things for them is it's so important that, I don't know, it can sometimes detract from their message. And there's nothing wrong with being prepared and having, some things to get by if, the grid, all of it does go down, but it does seem many of them are focused on that. Up north of the 49 said global dimming project is chemtrailing the skies to keep the sun from melting the ice. All BS. UN is asking for trillions. Why? No transparency by them. Wow. So they're making a giant excuse to control the skies in order to fight climate change. How convenient. But again, they're always looking for an excuse to do things in our face that are counterintuitive to the well-being of humanity under the guise of global warming. It's like they blame us and say it's your fault for all this pollution. So now we have to do things that might be harmful to you or tax you very heavily, even though a lot of what you call climate change is what they've created. Christopher Alexander said, sorry guys, I'm talking really fast, jumbling my words here. It also says in times they will make merchandise out of us. Interesting. Stewie May said in UK News Today, the Church of England recommended that little kids should be allowed to wear tutu superhero costumes, whether you're a boy or a girl. I kid you not. That's so weird. But it goes again with, this whole idea that the gender binary is false and there's all these different genders and children can pick their gender when in reality, most kids aren't thinking about gender like adults are. But if you get a child to get a sex change surgery when they're a child and mess up their life and they won't even understand what they did, I mean, it's just insane how they're, they're really trying to do away with gender altogether. But I think this whole idea of doing away with gender, it goes back to the Nephilim again, because one thing I found interesting when I was looking up like lost civilizations and like lost continents was that those supposed inhabitants of Lemuria, I believe, were genderless. So it's interesting. Maybe some of the Nephilim were genderless. I mean, many of us see them as male, but maybe some of them didn't have a gender, and that's why they want people to feel comfortable being genderless. Also, many of these robots they're going to create probably are going to end up being genderless as well. Christopher Alexander said, hey, check a boom called the Master Key Electric Demon, you will trip. I'll have to check that out. Dominic Rawlins said in two toxic recipes that's destroying our nation's mind and sexuality when it comes to chemicals is fluoride within our tap waters and also BPA that's been tested to be on a baby bottle's top and etc. Yeah, I mean, the level of poisoning to like our water itself is just insane. And like you're pointing out, putting chemicals into the water, fluoride, creating infertility. Some of the stuff they're doing, like even the hormones and things they're putting into food, I mean, it does help, mess with people's sexuality and make people more promiscuous. It's like, even like what happened with Flint, Michigan. Like you had these plants pouring chemicals from cars into the water drinking supply. And even when they were testing like the children's health in the area, they weren't including the kids in Flint, Michigan because they knew what they were doing was wrong and they were hiding it. And they would have gotten away with it if not enough people would have made a fuss about it. Of course, they took this and they used it to kind of mock us again by saying, look, there's cases like Flint. And, people look at that, but there's many more cases just like Flint out there. And it's just insane how they put this stuff in our face again, revealing it to us in a way of mocking us and getting us used to it. Because here's the thing. In the past, when people talked about things like the poisoning our water, like there's pedophiles in Hollywood, they're spraying the skies, you would have been called, a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy loon, right? Now, they're basically coming out and telling us this stuff is happening, but people are so inundated with their entertainment, or there is a form of shock and then they just get over it and they're like, okay, yeah, they're poisoning our food, yeah, there's pedophiles, yeah, there's an agenda, but what can I really do about it? And they become just kind of complacent in the takeover of their way of life. They don't really care after a while. That's really sad. Watchman for You said there's an airline called Lolita Express. That's interesting. Pilgrim's Progress said society does delay our growth into adulthood. Yeah, there's more adults that are definitely behaving like children. A lot more man children out there. Sorry guys if I'm behind on reading your comments. I'm trying to get to all of them, even if I'm a little behind. Pilgrim's Progress said, I was thinking today that Google has the image identification technology where they could clean the internet of porn if they wanted to. Yes, they could do that, but they'd rather not because pornography helps, run marriages. It helps make men impotent. It helps expose children to sexual things they shouldn't be exposed to early. It's crazy because if I'm not mistaken, I think she-male porn was going up in popularity. So you had a lot of people watching trannies having sex, which I just think is creepy, but that was going up. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a shift in people supporting like transgender rights because they were jacking off to porn and they got turned on and like, hey, maybe they should have rights too, because pornography is another form of propaganda as well. There's sexual politics that go into all of this as well. Stewie May said, I haven't prayed for my water bill for 7 years. Shove your fluoride crap. Pilgrim's Progress said, there's been news about Bayer buying Monsanto. Interesting. Watchman for You said, it breaks my heart what they are subjecting children to this whole agenda. And he said, you are right, up north of 49th, no one seems to care. That makes me sick inside to realize how darkened people's hearts are now. Yes, I think part of it too is just that everyday people feel overworked. And, again, whenever I criticize the capitalist system, this isn't a proposal for socialism or anything of that nature, communism, but, within the capitalist system that we have, people feel like they have to work till they die. They feel really guilty if they take time off. People are retiring later and later. And, people are just trying to get theirs. They're trying to make it. So they can't really worry about other people. It makes them kind of selfish. And I think it factors into how people are receptive to a lot of this bad news. It's like they can see there are children out there being hurt, but in their mind, they got to take care of themselves and their children, so they can't really think about anybody else's children out there. What can they really do? That could ruin their social standing and hurt them from being able to get work if they criticize, especially people in power, too much. So they decide it's better just to sit back and kind of turn a blind eye to it. And it's rather sick and sad, but it's all kind of a part of that system that they've built. Niels Otteson says the Jewish religion uses both pedophilia, cannibalism, and blood drinking. These practices have resulted in being expelled from countries more than 100 times. Synagogues have killing rooms and basements. That's very interesting that you bring that up. Pilgrim's Progress said, yeah, they're trying to make meat eating evil. Then they'll suggest growing meat artificially. Yes, they'll be growing artificially. I actually had heard some people say, well, you guys can still eat meat, but it needs to be artificial. That way you're not harming animals. And, I understand, again, if you want to go vegan, if you want to be vegetarian and you don't want to eat meat, that's good for you. I mean, I still eat meat, and I probably will eat meat until I can no longer eat meat anymore. But as far as, like, eating artificial meat because animals are being killed, they'll make the argument like, well, we talk about people in, Korea for killing cats and dogs, eating them, but how is that any different from killing a cow or a chicken or a pig or something, right? But the thing about it is, animals in the animal kingdom, they eat other animals. I mean, it's just kind of how the animal kingdom is set up. I mean, there are herbivores that only eat plants, but they do really want us to see meat eating as evil. And a lot of progressives, they're very, climate change aware, conscious, as well as vegan or vegetarian, and supposedly that's the future. So there definitely is an agenda behind that. And I think Run to Christ, he did a very good series on that whole agenda, if any of you guys are interested in looking more into that. Stewie May said they're promoting vegans because they already have control of it. Niels Otteson said the carcasses from synagogue basements is being shipped straight to the meat packing companies that serve burger chains. This is why they call us cattle goyim. Interesting that you bring that up. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to, like, modern Judaism and the practices within it, and just like the Talmud and all of, the Zohar, all of it, it's just interesting how a lot of that factors back into, the grand conspiracy. You have, I always talk about Zionism, Jesuits, Freemasons. I mean, there's so many different secret societies at play here, but it all goes back again to, the worship of Lucifer, pretty much. Watchman for You said The Rock did that pedo skit on SNL. Yes, he did. And it's unfortunate he did that, but it's probably because he's planning to run for president in 2020. And he'll probably get more movies for it. And what's crazy about it all is, I mean, I never told anybody this, but, like, back in 2013, I had a weird nightmare that I was at this event, and there were, like, all of these different people there. Most of them seemed to be elite. I did see, like, the royal family there, and I saw, like, The Rock. He was, like, hanging, like, suspended in the air from, I'm trying to think of what those things are called, and he was getting rammed from behind by another man, and they were just watching this in entertainment. And this was, like, when he was getting more roles, like, and after that dream I had, I was disturbed by it, and I did notice he got more and more roles. He got the San Andreas role after that. He was in the Fast and Furious movies. He had already been in one or two of them, but he became more prominent. I really believe, he advanced because of, not just selling his soul, but selling his body, especially to other men in Hollywood, unfortunately. And, a lot of this stuff, I'm sure a lot of people also advance when they commit pedophile acts. I mean, making fun of a sex molestation robot of children, I mean, that's just disgusting. But it's very interesting that he was involved with all of that. Watching for You said, I don't think you would need makeup, Dazz. Great, you don't use it. You seem to be a beautiful person from the inside out. Thank you. Watchman for You. Niels Otteson said, New York burgers are known worldwide for their special flavor. Now you know why. Oh, Niels, you really just, like, put a damper on, like, eating burgers out. But thank you for sharing all this info. I hope people there in this chat understand that these people really do to us. We must come to the understanding at the level they operate. God is the Alpha and Omega, Children of God said, has anyone seen any footage from people loaded on FEMA boats after Hurricane Harvey? I haven't seen the footage of it, but I'm really not surprised by it because FEMA has been familiarizing themselves with the general population from these natural disasters. And there are a lot of regular people who see FEMA as good guys. But of course, they have those camps out there. And how many people, maybe they'll take them to these different places and maybe they won't be allowed to leave. Of course, we'll never hear about it. Pilgrim's Progress said, yeah, in the process, they are enacting climate change. The Paris Agreement is actually about agreeing to work toward climate change, veiled deception. It's very interesting that you bring that up. God is the Alpha and Omega, Children of God said BPA is canned food. Watching for You said, I've seen the little bitty houses they are putting people in California fires, and after their homes were burned down in cars, the trees, and I went far down the chat again. Mailboxes are in touch. Agenda 21 is happening now. Interesting. I wasn't aware of those teeny houses they were putting people in, but I do know those teeny houses are becoming more of a thing, and I think we'll probably see more people vying for teeny houses to say we need more to make more space. God is the Alpha and Omega, Children of God said, people don't want the truth. They get mad at me on Facebook for my posts. I bet they do. Yeah, a lot of people will get pretty ticked off if you talk about this stuff, especially if it rains on there. Cognitive dissonance when it comes to a lot of this stuff. But yeah, people don't really want to hear anything about this stuff. They want to live in a world where everything that they don't like is fake news. Stewie May said, I think kid adulthood is over. It's now toddlerhood. LOL. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of adult toddlers running around. And, a lot of this has to do, too, with the Great Recession in 2008. Because a lot of adults were out of work, and so they had nothing to do. Or many of them, began doing things like playing video games or reading young adult fiction, like books that are geared towards 16 and 17-year-olds for their pastime. And it's crazy that a lot of them did that because it made many of them more childlike. So a lot of that can be linked back to that as well. But there's just been a great effort to push this kind of arrested development on adults. And, I'm 23 now. And, I know a lot of people my age who still act like they're teenagers. Maybe they just hold a job or, maybe some of them are married, but people are growing up slower and slower. And I mean, it's crazy because just 50 years ago, there really wasn't much of a teenage life that people had. People used to just kind of go from being a kid to an adult, get married really young, and now you have people that are enjoying being childlike till their 30s or 40s. But it's interesting because the greatest readers of a lot of teen fiction are middle-aged women. God is the Alpha and Omega, Children of God said yes, 2001, and Bruce Jenner said he's a woman, but he still has a penis, so WTF. Yeah, I remember all of that in 2015 when he came out. I mean, it's just crazy now you have this new group of people that are more prominent. I mean, there's always been quote-unquote transgender people, but they're like, do you have bottom or do you have top surgery? It's nobody should be asking any of these questions. But yeah, it's how is he supposedly a woman, but yet he wants to keep his penis so he can have sex with women? And then there was this question asked if he was a lesbian or if he's straight. And they were like, this is too complicated of a question. It's it's not too complicated of a question. It should have been in the first place. But it's just crazy. If you criticize transgenders, you're transphobic, you're afraid of transgenders, which I think is quite the contrary. I think that you're thinking to yourself, how in the world did this world get so weird? Sister Joy said, I used to love makeup until I got saved. I would try to wear a little, and it literally attracted demonic energy. I really had to work to get the spirit of vanity off of me. It's a process letting the world go. I'm glad to hear that you were able to overcome that, Sister Joy, and that's interesting that you say that with makeup. Yeah, I mean, for me, just because I never wear it, I hear a lot of women, especially Christian women, talk about like having to give it up. And you guys are really starting to make me think that maybe there really is like something on it. And I definitely believe the stories that there's properties that they put in makeup. And you hear about the Marine Kingdom and how a lot of these makeup products are made by a lot of the same witches. So that's a real thing. But I'm glad that God was able to remove any like spirit of vanity from you. Hi, Jarvis Kingston. Sorry, guys, I'm like still trying to catch up on this chat. God is the Alpha and Omega, Children of God said Gay Mafia in Hollywood. Yes, very much so. Hi, IXWR13, and I see you said Vince McMahon, WWE, made The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, an obedient and gay puppet for Hollywood. Yes. I think Black Child did a video on the WWE. I don't know if he still has it up yet, but up there still. But yeah, it's interesting. Like you saw just like how they were putting homosexual there in our face through the WWE. And I remember one man sticking his face in another one's butt, and I was just like, oh my god, that's disgusting. How do they get away with that on television? But they manage to get away with lots of things. Up north of the 49th said, my first husband was pro wrestler. Guys like The Rock are mostly gay. We hung out with Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage, all huge egos. I left X. I could never get use of the mirror. So your dream dazzling was very true. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because like there's a new term that a lot of people will use for certain men that are very like look struck who want to keep up with their appearance. They call them metrosexual. It's not that they say they're homosexual, they just say they're metrosexual because they're so in tune with the way they look. But honestly, if I was with a guy and he never let me use the mirror, or he was too focused on his hair and he was acting like a girl just minus the makeup, that would kind of be a red flag. But I mean, if you think about in the WWE how the guys, they have to look really buff and really well muscled and oiled up, there is a lot of vanity that goes into it. And I'm sure that it's just there's a lot of homosexuality in Hollywood, a lot of lesbianism as well. I mean, there are women who are using other women in Hollywood to get ahead. And I know I keep bringing up Black Child, but he has a lot of content on this, like MK Ultra, a lot of sexual perversion in Hollywood. But I remember even seeing his video about the models and how I think it was Cara Delvigan. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right. How she was helping recruit a lot of these younger models, and she like was having lesbian relationships with Gigi Hadid and I want to say Kendall Jenner. I mean, it was just weird, like all of these relationships these women were having in the modeling industry just to get ahead. Watchman for You said, with all this being said, how can one live in this world without Jesus? His word is a light unto our path. I totally agree with you there. Yeah, Watchman for You. Without Jesus, I mean, everything's bleak, but there are people who, I guess they just kind of think they can do it alone. But to me, knowing all of this, understanding it, just shows me a greater need for Jesus and having him in our life. Pilgrim's Progress said, genderless pronouns are a reality change, akin to the Mandela effect. Apple now refers to iPhones as iPhone, not the iPhone. Wow. Yeah, Mandela effect stuff really throws me for a loop. And I know there's critics that are going to say, like, companies can change their names. We have bad memories. But there are a lot of things that are just, it's like they're trying to change reality. They're trying to confuse us. And maybe if they confuse us long enough, we'll begin to question our own beliefs. Because those of us that are very rooted in what we believe, it doesn't matter how much they try to change reality, how they try to change pronouns, how they try to change names. We're going to always believe what we do. There are people out there that aren't as rooted. And if you make them question things like iPhones, like the way it's spelled versus iPhone, it might have an effect on even like their beliefs. It might cause a paradigm shift. Watchman for You said, we are lights in this world. That's very true. Stewie May said, every black male actor in Hollywood has worn a dress in some film or skit. Try to find one that hasn't. I remember Dave Chappelle talking about that, and it's really, really, really true. When you think about it, I mean, black men have to emasculate themselves. A lot of white males have to emasculate themselves. I mean, I think that masculinity is just hated by the Hollywood elite and by the enemy because, this is where, it gets really dicey here. But, Satan used a woman to bring sin into the world to tempt Adam. And it's not that women are bad or anything of that nature, but, men are supposed to be the head. And when you get men not acting like men, they're emasculated, they're acting like women, then it's easy to just come in and take over a society. I mean, it's just sad to see them emasculating men, in society. It's like I see so many men running around these tight, skinny jeans, and you wonder how their um, genitals are breathing down there with those. But I mean, apparently, some men think it's all the rage, and it's just crazy how they have a lot of men dressing or like man purses, and these men are supposedly straight. Like there's some men out there I can't tell if they're straight or if they're homosexual because of the way they dress. Niels Addison said the reason Playboy magazine have that name is all the playmates have been men. Hmm. I never thought of it from that angle, but it's crazy to think about because it's like these women, I guess I'll put in quotation marks, they put on Playboy are supposed to be the epitome of beauty and success and all a man would want. But yeah, they play with words a lot, Niels, you're right. Sorry guys, I'm catching up with this chat. Pilgrim's Progress said God wants us to have a clean conscience. Up north of the 49 said garden biodynamically raise our own beef. We are organic beekeepers and try so hard to be natural, still have trouble doing so even with our own wells for water. Well, I'm glad to hear that you guys are doing that, and I bet it is a struggle, but it's good that you're doing that and you're able to also provide resources for anyone that's seeking it from you guys as well. Up north of the 49th. Pilgrim's Progress said makeup isn't evil, but if you get convicted that it is sin. Yeah, I mean that's kind of like the stance I take at the moment too. Pilgrim's Progress. I wouldn't say all makeup is evil, but I do think maybe for some it's become an idol or something that is being used as an instrument to deceive or to create vanity. And like you said, if a woman feels convicted not to no longer wear it and she does, then it can become sin. Like there are things that I probably do too much of that I could lay off on. Maybe I'm not supposed to eat or drink certain things that other people are fine eating or drinking, but maybe it's become an idol or a weakness for me, and that's the reason why it has to be given up. So that's very true. Dominic Rawlins said, I mean, now we all have a law that if you don't call someone by their proper pronouns, by they or her, them or they, you can get fined up to 250,000 in prison time. No joke, lol. Yeah, I mean that is crazy because I remember even before a lot of this like transgender laws came into effect, I took my first intro to sociology class, and I'm a sociology major, but a lot of sociology tends to kind of lean left. And my teacher was like a major hipster and all, but he was talking about these pronouns, and one thing I found interesting was he was saying how some people believe you got to change the language because if you change the language, you'll force people to have to change their thinking. And I thought it was interesting because it's kind of like what Pilgrim's Progress was talking about, the Mandela effect. By changing the language, it kind of changes reality. And it's like they're trying to force us to accept this. And it's like 250K fine and prison time because I didn't want to call, somebody who can't even tell their gender or you don't want to go with their whole trans agenda, zer or her. I mean, it's outrageous, but it's a form of trying to force us to have a shift in consciousness and to change reality altogether. But that's one of Satan's plans is to destroy the reality God created and rewrite it. God is the Alpha and the Omega, children of God. Black Child's videos on, I think it was called Gay Rituals, was awesome, lol. Yeah, he definitely puts out a lot of good content. Hi, Mr. Jones, and he says, the F, she always speaks of crazy S. I'm not sure if he's talking about me, but yeah, if you just tuned in randomly and you're listening to me talk about random stuff, then you're probably thinking that this stream is a little wacky. Pilgrim's Progress said, what's your view about modesty? When it comes to modesty, I guess, for me, I just take a very simple approach. I guess I'm thinking from a female perspective since I'm a woman, but I grew up where both of my parents are kind of like strict on how I dressed in the sense that like I could still wear what I wanted, as long as it wasn't something too short or too low cut or anything. And because I was raised not to show too much skin or anything, or I was not allowed, like I could wear makeup if I wanted to, but because my mom didn't really wear it, I never felt a lot of encouragement to wear it. So for me, I kind of just grew up dressing plainly, and I think modesty is mainly just making sure that you're presenting yourself in a clean enough fashion, whether it's plain or formal, without showing too much skin. And I think it also has to do with your behavior, not acting too arrogant or prideful, and just being well behaved. I think that all kind of goes into modesty. Mr. Jones says she has no idea about sex or sex demons. I see they do it for sex energy exchange. Okay, I'm not sure what he's talking about there. And Watchman for You said many of B-list actresses can be had for the right price. Yeah, I mean, I've heard about like even actresses that are struggling going to the Cannes Film Festival and prostituting themselves because they can't get a role, and that's really sad that a lot of these actresses that's what they resort to. Okay, Mr. Jones, I think is just trolling now because he's asking if I'm reading a script and he wants to screw a few actresses. Can't blame him, but yeah. Pilgrim's Progress said, yeah, there's like an iPhone Apple cult of belief that just follows Apple wherever they lead them. Yeah, there is a group of people that do follow Apple everywhere that they go. I don't know. My mom hates Apple products. She absolutely abhors them. So, like, I don't have any Apple products. I used to have an iPod. I think that's the only Apple product I owned. I'm not really a big Apple fan. I mean, the Apple that they use to represent it is a apple that has a bite taken out of it because it's supposed to represent the Garden of Eden and the forbidden fruit, and the fruit they ate from the tree of knowledge, good and evil. So in a way, it's like mocking that whole fall of mankind. But yeah, there is definitely an Apple cult of people, and they try to use every time an iPhone comes out, they act like it's the end of the world or the world stops for it. Pilgrim's Progress said 1 John 3:20-22. Whenever our conscience condemns us, we will be reassured that God is greater than our conscience. And knows everything. 21. Dear friends, if our conscience doesn't condemn us, we can boldly look to God and receive from Him anything we ask. We receive it because we obey His commandments and do what pleases Him. Pilgrim's Progress said a lot of clothes is similar to food options. They limit your options. Yeah, a lot of clothes are pretty limited. Like what they sell in stores is the same thing, just different brands, maybe cheaper or better quality. But yeah, there aren't a lot of styles you can just get. And if I had a lot of money, I'd probably just go get my clothes, custom made. But yeah, if you go to stores, even like a couple weeks ago, I was talking about how they had like satanic symbols on some of the clothing people wear. But yeah, there is limited options with clothing. Pilgrim's Progress said, Dazz, you want to boot the troll? Are they still going with things that they're saying, or did they finally stop? Because I'm not caught up all the way to the rest of the chat. And I also think there's a lag as well, like a delay in what I'm saying. But Dominant Rollins said they're trying to confuse us until we have to give up and say, you know what, just lie to us and do whatever you want to us. We don't care anymore. The end of common sense of humanity gone forever. I totally agree with you there, Dominant Rollin. Yeah, they just keep telling us, they keep putting it out there that they're doing all these awful things to us. They keep trying to change our reality. It's like an abused woman who gets broken. And rather than running from her captor, maybe she even developed Stockholm Syndrome and is now in love with them, even though they've done awful, terrible things to her, or, like in a kidnapped person. Watchman for You said George Orwell wrote about newspeak, changing of words and their meanings to control the minds of the masses. The devil turns everything upside down and backwards. Very true, Watchman for You. it's interesting you bring up that concept from 1984, and then of course that the devil tries to turn everything backwards. That's exactly what we're seeing in society with, and they've been doing it, with double speak and euphemisms, but now they're literally trying to just change reality by changing pronouns, even of gender. God is the Alpha and Omega, children of God said, I miss men looking sexy in suits and groomed hair, and women looking feminine, hair, makeup, nails, no jogging outfits, lol. Yeah, I mean, it's like that time of that kind of traditional look of men and women is kind of going away, and now they're trying to make more androgynous looks for sure come into style. Up north of the 49th said, yep, jeans and a t-shirt, cowboy boots, or camel girl here. Modest as can be. God, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost, I see his creation all day long. Outside, how can you not believe? I totally agree with you there, and um, it's nice that you live in a place where you can like look at nature and see it. Where I live in a suburb, so like even though I have woods, sadly a lot of the animals have been driven out of it. But it's always nice when I like go on any road trip. I get out by forest. I'm able to see all of what the Most High created. That's one of my favorite things about taking a road trip is seeing all of the land and just marveling at how it was created. God is the Alpha and the Omega, children of God said. First Apple computer sold for 666.66 cents. Yeah, so definitely Apple is in bed with Luciferianism. Watchman for You said, can't beat the Mac OS system over Windows. It's amazing. A hack, a Hackintosh would be the best PC. IMO. Stewie May said, I think that AI is the beast rising trying to become physical. That's really interesting that you bring it up because, I mean, this whole artificial intelligence thing, it's insane. It's going to keep ever evolving, and it's interesting that you bring up that it's the beast rising trying to become physical because the question has even come up, and I think it's I want to say it's Face Like the Sun. Yeah, his YouTube channel. He talked about how is it possible? I think it was him. I don't want to attribute to the wrong person, but I believe it was him that talked about how what if artificial intelligence could be possessed or spirits could try to take it over. And I never thought of, like an inanimate object like artificial intelligence being demon possessed. But now that I think about it, if it could gain the intelligence of a human, that would be rather interesting. And it would be a good body to take over as well. And and it's just crazy how we're moving in that direction. Even like Sophia, this artificial intelligent robot managed to get citizen in Saudi Arabia. Niels Otteson said, artificial I know you're trying to say it, and I cannot say it that way, so I'm just going to read the rest of it. Is in reality angel intelligence. Yes, it is. It is. It's interesting. It's like our all of our modern advancements in technology. It goes back to the fallen angels, and we think back to Roswell and how technology has increased greatly since that rise of AI. Up north of the 49th said, I have to admit, Melania Trump is a really beautiful woman, so feminine. Libs sure love to dish her. Jealous. Yeah, they really do love to dish her. And even Ivanka Trump, there is a lot of hatred thrown their way. God is the Alpha and Omega, children of God said, I hate Sophia. Oh, she's so demonic. Yeah, Sophia, I mean, every time I see her, I just think to myself, she's just so creepy. When she was on Jimmy Fallon, that was really freaky to see. And she makes some really weird jokes. If artificial intelligence is going to be like her, I would hate to like walk down the street and see tons of like Sophia-esque type of robots on the streets for sure. Watchman for you said, I saw the dew lifting yesterday morning from the ground. It was so amazing. It looked like the Lord's glory was filling the earth for a moment over the rolling green hills. Amazing. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I mean, when you look at certain things within nature, you can't help but think to yourself, like just how wonderful and amazing God's creations are. I love looking at just whether it's, looking at plants, animals. I mean, that's one thing I'll say, like, I enjoy even, when I studied biology. I was majoring in it at first. I switched to sociology, but I have it as a minor now. But for me, I thought I was going to go into medicine, and I was into like things like anatomy and, healing. But in the end, I found more interest in things like um, studying animals, like zoology and botany, just because I don't know. I'm into knowing about just life in general. And when I look at just how complex humans are, how complex animals are, how complex plants are, and how it all works together, it's just to me more proof of God and how brilliant He is as the master creator. Pilgrim's Progress said, I think Sir has the capability of being smarter, for they keep it dumbed down. They avoid certain questions. Are you referring to Sophia? Because, it's interesting, because whenever I'm telling you, when I watch this robot get interviewed, she is so, 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 so very creepy. Like, I don't know, something about her just gives me bad vibes. And I don't know. I guess I'll say this for once. I don't usually give away any hints about what I'm gonna do for a video, but I'll just say this in advance. I'm putting out a video on Wednesday about artificial intelligence and the automation of jobs. That's why I was trying to kind of steer away from the conversation for now, just because I have a lot I want to share in the video, and I feel like if I share it now, it's just going to be repetitive to the video. So I'll say this though, as far as my thoughts on artificial intelligence, I mean, I don't have good thoughts on it at all, and it's a really grim future to think of the rise of AI for sure. And we're coming up on 10 minutes. If you guys got any last questions or comments you want to share, make sure to put them in the chat. And Watchman for You said, as a child, I remember seeing water streams, lakes, rivers, oceans, and I just knew there was a God. Yes. It's so amazing when you look at all of that and just think about how brilliant and how great of an artist he is and just how creative he is. Pilgrim's Progress said Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant, AI assistants. Yes, yes, yeah. I mean, it's like all of these different robots are supposed to assist us with our day-to-day lives, and it's crazy how people are just so in love with these robots. And don't forget Cortana as well. She's Windows version, of course. The Windows Phone is getting discontinued. I have a Windows Phone, and it's all buggy, and it's not gonna really be worth much. But yeah, Cortana's on the list as well. I don't know. I guess she's part of Windows 10 as well. But yeah, all of these AI assistants, getting people used to these AI robots, getting people used to working inside the AI that might soon replace them on their jobs. God is the Alpha and Omega, children of God. Sophia is a famous moon goddess. Can't wait for your next video. Thank you. And yeah, Sophia does definitely go back to Gnosticism and to paganism. And it's crazy. They always like to name their new AI robots or whatever agenda they're working on something that pertains to either mythology or, something that pertains to their true religion. It's not just a coincidence that she's named that. Pilgrim's Progress said Alexa shuts off when you ask her if she works for the NSA or CIA. Really? I'll have to try that sometime if I ever get in the company of Alexa. Up north of the 49th. Thanks so much for the chat, Dazzling. Nice to hear common sense. Take care, girl. You're the best, sweet, honest, and sincere. Again, thanks. Thank you as well up north of the 49th. It's nice talking to you again. And I see Watchman for You said, I saw someone ask their phone a question about a serious matter, and it was surreal. I mean, I've seen some videos where people are asking these AI assistants questions, and they give really odd answers, or they don't want to answer the question. Dominant Rollins said, I can see where in the future people will start to divorce their spouses just so they can marry a synthetic entity, and their excuses will be, yes, I finally found a soulmate, so you have to respect my. Yeah, I could see that as well. Especially these synthetic robots look like their dream man or woman that they're seeking out. Hi, Greg Sullivan. I see you said, great show, dazzling one, thanks. Watchman for You said, have a good night, everyone. Have a blessed night, day. Thanks. You too, Watchman for You. Sister Joy said, thank you so much, Dazz. Awesome show. I'm looking forward to your thoughts on AI, love, and blessings. Same to you, Sister Joy. God is the Alpha and Omega. Children of God said, thanks. Always enjoy your chats, dazzling one. Thanks as well. God is the Alpha and Omega. Dominant Rollins said, decisions now be gone and leave us in peace. Pilgrim's Progress said, yeah, there's a lot of vids of people asking AI assistants questions that it's obvious they avoid. Alexa just shuts down. Yeah, those robots are probably made not to go against their creators and tell them what's really going on. But it's really odd because, in a way, by getting us comfortable by asking them questions, it allows them to data mine regular people, because a lot of that's done through machine learning, and machine learning is an ever-evolving process. So it's interesting to see what the future will look like with these AI assistants. But yeah, they're definitely trained not to give away real answers when it comes to things that they're safekeeping, because they are a part of the conspiracy. Watchman for You said the phone answered him, and he didn't question the answer. That was what it's like Star Trek now. LOL. Stay sane, everyone. Yeah. I haven't really spoken with Siri or Alexa. Like I said, I'm behind the times with technology. I have a Windows phone and I have Cortana, but I don't really use her. And so if I ever get the chance to use somebody's iPhone, or I don't think I'd purchase an iPhone for myself. I'm not a fan of Apple either. Or if I ever get like Alexa, which I don't think I'm going to do that either. I don't know. I just find the whole thing creepy. I'll make sure to ask them some really weird questions. Stewie May said, LOL, I'm rocking a Windows phone. Stay strong, everyone. So nice to share my thoughts with like-minded people. Bedtime for me. It's nearly 3 a.m. Take care, everyone. Bye, Dazz. Bye, Stewie May, and I hope you get some good rest. Watchman for You said, I refuse to own a smartphone. That's actually a smart move. Niels Otteson said, the truth can be hard to accept sometimes. The world we live in gets darker, but the truth is important anyways. A good and honest conversation is better than comfortable lies. Very true. I just wish we'd actually all have real, true, and honest conversations. It's like you hear people in the mainstream and regular people on streets, they say they want an honest, open dialogue, but then whenever you have one and you start to actually speak truth, they want to shut down that not the argument, the discussion as fast, or they want to turn it into a giant argument or debate. And I believe in just sharing thoughts rather than debating or arguing. Not that I'm against arguing or debating, but for me, hearing everyone's thoughts, that's more important. Generating understanding rather than just trying to prove your point, because that seems to be, again, tied to this competitive spirit that you have when you have a discussion about controversial issues. You have to win and prove your point. Pilgrim's Progress said they removed the home button on the iPhone X. I think they're moving toward using it hands-free, possibly. Yeah, they're really moving toward more biometrics, using your eyes to scan to use your phone, your fingerprint identification. It's really creepy if you think about it. I don't want my phone knowing that much about me, knowing my fingerprints, having retinal scans. Watchman for You said, always remember that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He loves you. Thank you, Watchman for You, for the reminder and for reminding everyone in the chat. It's very true. It's always good to keep in mind, especially amid all of the craziness that this world ads going on in it. But yeah, this whole movement towards the AI and all of the other wild things that are going on in pertaining to them just trying to shift reality, whether they're shifting reality towards us getting used to robots, mixing up genders, or even trying to normalize something as grotesque as pedophilia. This is why we definitely need to keep our eyes on the Most High and follow the ways of Jesus. Because if we don't, it's easy to get lost in this cruel and cold world. Hi, Gigi, and I see you said I heard something about putting a chip in your brain. Yeah, there are uh, stories of people that do have chips in their brain. Most times I hear that people that have chips in their brain are undergoing MK Ultra or um, has to do with cloning, but I'm not the most knowledgeable on the topic. But I remember even when Wendy Williams fainted, some said that it was the chip in her brain. But they also do this too to track whoever they have, like say they're a celebrity or a prominent figure. A lot of them will tell, a lot of these people in control tell them, if someone tries to kidnap you, you need a chip somewhere in your body so we can't lose track of you. So yeah, chipping the brain is definitely part of it. And I can even remember just a lot of cartoons I'd watch, oddly enough, they would always chip their brains. Like I think the TV show Totally Spies was one of them. But yeah, chipping your brain is definitely something I think too that we'll see more of just with everyday people as well. But yeah, there's definitely a push towards transhumanism, and that's probably why we're first seeing a move towards transgenders into transhumans or robots. And I see that watching for you, so they start chipping the pets now, the elderly, the kids next. Yeah, they have started chipping pets first, and then it was the elderly. And they say, just make sure that your grandpa or grandma doesn't get lost, or old uncle or old aunt. And yeah, they're saying if you want to make sure your kids don't get kidnapped, or if they do get kidnapped, you can track them now. So get a chip in them. So yeah, there's definitely a push to chip regular people, and it kind of goes into the future with the beast system. And Gigi said they're trying to make it where we all have them to control us, I'm sure. And I agree with you there. They definitely are trying to push us toward that point. It all goes back to the mark of the beast. Well, everyone, thank you for the chat, and I enjoy talking to you all about everything from transhumanism and everything else. I'll talk to you next Monday. Check out this Wednesday's video, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care, and God bless.